Hi guys, JP from FSiPanel. On that quick tutorial, I will show you how you can fly quick approaches using FSiPanel 2020 and the beautiful brand new A2A Piper Comanche, the PA24. It is now possible to use FSiPanel to position yourself on a short final, on a vectors, anywhere you like on the planet, and be able to fly an approach very quickly on that beautiful aircraft. Before I forget, please subscribe to the channel, and on that video I will show you first a positioning to final, then we will try left-hand vectors, and finally I will show you how to reposition the aircraft if you are flying in the air, you're already halfway through your destination and you would like to be on final just to do the landing, or to position the aircraft while you are already flying. Feel free to jump using the chapters, but I highly recommend you to watch the first departure just to understand how to use FSiPanel with that aircraft. Alright, let's restart the simulator and I will show you from scratch what you have to do. Today I've chosen to fly out of the airport of Paderborn in Germany, and we will be flying out of runway 24. So this is what you have to set in your simulator. So let me do that and I'll see you just in a second. Alright, here we are. The simulator is ready. Aircraft is on the runway 24 at Paderborn, Germany. So I will click ready to fly, and here we are in the cockpit with the default cockpit. So what I will do here is just set the parking brake so I can explain what's going on with the aircraft static. Add a little bit of power, so the aircraft, the RPM is above 1000, so the engine is running perfectly well. All right, let's start from the beginning. What you have to do now is to set your training weight. Right now the aircraft is with one passenger, so I can add a co-pilot, for example, and I can add some fuel. I'm happy with that, so I will fly only 2 people today. So fill the aircraft as you like. That's the first step. Second things to know is that FSiPanel will always position your aircraft with flaps up. So even if you select some flaps now, FSiPanel will retract the flaps before moving the aircraft. So this is something to know. The gear, you will see that it's up to you whether you want to retract or not the landing gear. We will see that in a minute. Finally, what you have to make sure is acknowledge at this time your GPS if you have any. Otherwise, later on, it might not be possible anymore to click OK. I don't know exactly why, but I find out that this could be an issue. So just click twice there. That's it. As well, you can acknowledge here the ADP, and we are just good now. So everything has been set in the cockpit. Even if we have the lights off, FSiPanel will turn the lights on as required. So we'll see that in a minute. So we are ready to set up our first approach, which will be a final, short final on runway 24 here in Paderborn. So let me start FSiPanel. Here we are, FSiPanel has started. First thing to do, as always, make sure you are at the right place. Echo Delta Lima Papa, that's correct. Runway 24 as well, correct. And now you can check as well that you have the right aircraft detected, which is the A2A Piper Comanche, so everything looks good. What we will do today, as I said before, short final, vectors, and then positioning from the air already. So let's start with the first positioning, which is short final. So I click on short final. We should be on the ILS runway 24. You don't have to be on an ILS approach, but this runway has an ILS. So FSiPanel will set the course and the frequencies for you. 4 nautical miles, and you should be at 1700 feet. So I click move aircraft, and here we are in the cockpit. First thing to do here, follow the instruction. You can see that now FSiPanel is preparing the aircraft. So it has set the lights to on, and now we are ready to start our approach. So what you have to do on this aircraft is to get airborne. So I will brief you before I go ahead so we don't get surprised and things are going very fast. So let me explain how it works with FSiPanel and the A2A Piper Comanche. You have to get airborne. So fly the aircraft at 50 feet above the ground. I was about to set radio altimeter, but we don't have a radio altimeter obviously on that aircraft. So 50 feet above the ground, the autopilot will be turned on. Then you just continue to climb. This is just the light ready that will come up. No mode will be selected. Then FSiPanel will set the heading mode, and continue to climb manually. FSiPanel will position the aircraft on final, and here the idea will be to continue climb and trim your aircraft until you reach 1700 feet. You will see the reminder on the instructions that 1700 feet is our target altitude. Once we reach our target altitude, FSiPanel will engage altitude hold on your autopilot. Then you will be asked to release your hands from the yoke and trim the aircraft properly based on the light, up or down. Probably down, as we are climbing with high power on this aircraft, and we are leveling off, so we must probably trim down and then adjust your power as required. And then you can take control of the aircraft and fly your approach. Whether you want to raise the gear or not, it's up to you. Here, as we will go on short final, I will not raise the gear, and on the second and third demonstration, I will raise the gear to show you that we can raise the gear as well as a normal takeoff, and then we will position the aircraft with the gear up. All right, so let's go ahead and do that and see how easy it can be done. So we are ready for takeoff. As you can see, get airborne, trim the aircraft, and let's see what happens. Brakes release, and let's go, take off. So full power, and we are going airborne. Airspeed alive. Around 80 knots now, we should get airborne. Here we go. I will not raise the gear, and I just try to climb at around 100 feet per minute, 1000 feet per minute. You can see now the autopilot has been turned on. I just continue my climb. Just continue your climb, normal. 95 knots is best rate of climb. Now FSiPanel has moved us on final, and you can see on the instruction window to continue climb to 1700 feet. So I just continue to climb. I'm not anymore turning my errands because now the heading mode is engaged. I'm just playing with the pitch. Once we reach 1700 feet, look at the message, and you have as well the autopilot altitude hold light that turned on. I can release all inputs on the control column, and now altitude hold is engaged, and I can now adjust my power, trim the aircraft as requested by the autopilot. That's what I'm doing now. I will adjust a little bit the power here. Here we go. And around 2200 RPM. That's it. So now you can see my runway is in front of me. I have the ILS frequency. Here I still have GPS as a source for my RMI, so I just need to go to Vorlock, and now you can see my localizer and glide slope. Runway in front of me, I'm ready to take control. So to take control, hold your brake for 3 seconds and you have control. At this position, feel free to configure the aircraft. If you want to already put some flaps, just go ahead. We are in the green band, so I'll go flaps, one notch of flaps. The speed will drop. If you had the gear up or the gear down, feel free to configure your aircraft, change your nav setting if you're not happy. Whenever you are ready, hold your brake 3 seconds and you have control, and now I'm flying the aircraft. Don't forget, if you want to land, sometimes I have the feedback, the aircraft is not going down, disconnect your autopilot. Autopilot is off now, and I can fly the aircraft to the runway. As easy as that. So let's bring the aircraft back on the ground, and I will show you now how we can position the aircraft on the left-hand base for the same runway. All right, let's go on the ground. All right, here we are back on the ground on runway 24, same position. Again, I will acknowledge the GPS in case you need it. If you don't need it, don't worry about that, sorry. And we will program now a left-hand base for the same runway. So let's start the FSiPanel. All right, here we are on FSiPanel. I will choose just left-hand vectors. We should be this time at 3000 feet, and we should be on an 8 nautical miles final. If you want to modify this, just go to select fix, choose your left-hand vectors. If you say I would like to come on a 2 nautical miles final, or let's say 3 nautical miles final, this is the X value. So you click on the X here and just dial in your distance, 3 nautical miles. And if you want the 3 nautical miles base, let's say vectors to final, just change your Y figures again to 3 nautical miles. So 3 and 3, and now as we are only 3 miles final, FSiPanel has computed the new ideal altitude to reach final, which is 1400 feet. So I can validate, and we are ready to go. Of course, I wanted to show you that possibility. If you want to use the quick positioning, just click the button quick setup right there and use move aircraft. So let's go ahead, move aircraft. Here we are again in the cockpit. We get the information that FSiPanel is setting our cockpit initially. As we are going for vectors, you can see that the landing lights are off this time, and we are ready to depart. All right, so this time we are going to raise the landing gear, so you will see the difference. Not much, the procedure is exactly the same, so let's go ahead and do the departure. So raise the brake, and we are good to go, so take off. Full power. Engine instruments in the green, the airspeed is alive, and release a little bit pressure on the nose wheel, and we get airborne. Here we go. Again, gear up. I'm supposed to wait until the end of the runway, but here I'm just going gear up. Now look at 50 feet again, the autopilot is engaged. Now you just continue to climb. Then FSiPanel will set at the right position, will engage heading mode, and now the aircraft is turning. This is completely normal. Let it turn, just climb toward 1400. 1400, altitude hold. I can release all pressure on my yoke, trim the aircraft if required, and adjust the power. So now I need to trim down, of course, and I will reduce the power as we have the gear up now, so it's quite important. Let's go 22, 22. All right, 22, 22, and she wants trim down, so I will trim down. Here we go, no more caution. You can see the speed is good, cruise speed. We have the right power. We have here the ILS frequency. I'm on GPS, so if I go again on the Vorlock, I can see my localizer, my glide slope. My altitude is correct, and my gear is up. So now you are ready to fly your approach over there. So I'm ready to take over the control. I'll take the control, and we could fly this approach. So to take the control again, hold your brake 3 seconds. Here we go. And now you can fly either with your autopilot, fly manually, do whatever you like. You have the control, and you can do this approach. Last thing I want to show you is now I'm flying. Let's pretend we are flying here on a sectors from A to B, and I would like to do a landing somewhere else, or I would like to land on the other runway here in Paderborn, so we can set up the aircraft from there. So let's do that. Let's go in FSiPanel and set up the approach. All right, here we are in FSiPanel again, and we said we would like to fly now on runway 06, let's say on short final. And once I click move aircraft, a lot of things will be happening, so make sure you don't touch anything. You just watch what's happening, and you wait until FSiPanel gives you the control. So right now we are flying straight at 22 and 2200 RPM. Their speed is around 160, and you can see that we are all set up for runway 24 with the nav setting. And let's say we decide now to land on runway 06 short final. So let's bring FSiPanel and do that. We have the gear up as well. So here we are. I click move aircraft, and let's see what's happening. So don't touch anything. You will see the new nav setting. Now the autopilot is reset. Once this is done, FSiPanel will move us to the right place. Now FSiPanel is setting the heading mode, the altitude hold, and the aircraft is turning toward the final heading, and we get the confirmation that the aircraft is ready to be flown. So at this stage, as you can see, the aircraft is still turning and we are still in position freeze. So if you want to take over the control right now, you can do that. Remember that the runway is to your right in that case, wherever is the heading bug. And the best thing to do is just to wait until the aircraft reach the correct heading, and we should have the runway right in front of us. Then at this position, before taking the control, feel free to change anything you want, like the speed, the gear, the flaps, before you take over the control. So that's the good thing to do as we are in a position freeze. So we have the right nav setting. As you can see, we are on VOR lock. We have the localizer glide slope indication. The runway is in front of us. So I will start to reduce the speed here for the landing. So let's bring the power back a little bit, and we will start to reduce the speed. As well, I would like to put the gear down at this position, so let's bring the gear down. So this is things that you can do from that position while you're in position freeze. And whenever you're ready, you can take over the control. So here what I will do, we are 4 miles final, so I will just put the first notch of flap. So I'm getting into the white band. She asked me to trim up, so I will trim up as I'm on the autopilot still. So be careful with that. If you see the up light or down light, just trim a little bit the aircraft. Let's go flaps. Good. And now as we're on final, we have the mixture reach. I have the prop full forward. I have the gear down, I have the pump on, and I will put the landing light on. Now we are ready to go, so I will take over the control. So hold my brake for 3 seconds, and I'm flying. Remember, you're on autopilot, so if you want to fly manually, disengage the autopilot. That's it. And now I have the control. I can go ahead and land the aircraft. Perfect. Let's try to fly this ILS approach, or at least a visual approach with the reference on the glide that we have displayed for this runway. So very nice and easy to fly. You see that you can fly very quick approaches, and once you land, you will get a landing report for your landing. So let's try the landing here. I found this aircraft very nice to fly. I had issue with my controls, too sensitive, so when I fly it, I think it's very sensitive on the elevator. So I have to be careful for the flare not to float too much. All right, let's go intermediate flap setting now, and I will try to reduce the speed slowly toward, let's say, 100 knots, and final speed will be around 95 knots. Glide slope is right there, so we'll start a slow descent following the glide slope. Let's go full flaps now. Landing checklist, we have the lights on, we have the car beats closed, we have the prop full forward, mixture is rich. All the lights are on and the speed is good. We are on the profile. Let's go for landing. Let's hope I don't make a very bad landing on that video. The problem I had so far, I did probably 5 to 10 landings while I was practicing with FSiPanel. The problem is the sensitivity and the flare. For me that was an issue, and as well as I'm flying jetliners, I have a tendency to float and to flare at 50 feet, or to flare way too high and then float down the runway. So I have to really work on my landing on this kind of aircraft. All right, back to the cockpit for the landing. The speed is coming down slowly toward 95 knots. We are on profile, a bit low. I will try to correct a little bit my rate of descent to catch the glide slope. The speed is good, 95 knots. And at over the threshold, I will start to reduce the power completely and try the landing. All right, now let's close the power, and let's hope this time I can flare slowly when it's time to flare. Not too early, not too early. Here we go, here we go. Not too bad. All right, keep the center line, and we will stop just out of the runway here, and I will show you the landing report that I got for this landing. So let's just stop on the runway so I don't waste your time. Here we go. Let's add a little bit of thrust of power, sorry for the engines. Set the brake, and let's go in FSiPanel for the landing report. Here we are, the landing report is right there, and you can see that I was on the Comanche for runway 06. The wind was 12, gusting 23, so it was tailwind. In fact, I didn't really look at that, so be careful when you position yourself. You see, I used real world weather, and it was not really appropriate for that runway. 24 would have been a much better choice. That's why we train. So you see, temperature 15 degrees, and basically here I was on the landing distance 266 meters. On the center line, rate of descent was okay, and the IIS at touchdown 52 feet, and localizer and glide slope tracking. As we saw, we were a little bit low, then I corrected, and finally we catch up the glide slope all the way down to the runway. All right, that's how to fly with the beautiful Comanche and FSiPanel 2020. This aircraft is available for standard and advanced edition both, so feel free to use it, and I hope that will help you do a lot of good landing on this beautiful aircraft. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and if you have any question or comment, I will be very pleased to answer. Please drop it in the section down below. Thank you guys, as always. Stay safe and see you next time. Bye bye.